It's definitely that time again, folks. I've already presented you with the top films of last year, and now here we are for the top 10 worst. Let's change up the terminology a little bit here. I don't want to talk down on films. I know how hard it is to be a filmmaker. A lot of intricate plots going into just presenting a film, exhibiting a film, and I know how hard it is from the whole process, even screenwriters. And I've tried my hand at a couple of screenplays, so I know how hard the process is. When I go to the movies, I don't go to a film to talk down, look forward to speaking ill on a film. I always try to find redeeming qualities of a film that just didn't knock it out of the park. So here we go. This was hard to do, but I did drop my top 10, again, disappointing films. Before I get to my dishonorable mentions in the official list, I just want to go ahead and remind you, press like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell notifying you of a new review posted to this channel. Thank you for choosing Mann Cinema Reviews. Some dishonorable mentions have to go to Godzilla vs. Kong, Dear Evan Hansen, Don't Look Up, The Voyeurs. There are also films that I didn't even get a chance to review. I know early on I wanted to review with my son. His first ever would have been Tom and Jerry, the live action Tom and Jerry. He was definitely enthusiastic, and I was the least bit enthusiastic with that film. Now, my top 10 disappointing films. Here we go. At number 10, Halloween Kills. Now, you know from my review that I was definitely looking forward to it, and there are a lot of horror movies that end up on my top disappointing films. My horror heads, I am definitely a fan of the genre. Believe me, when I speak ill of a horror film, it really is tough because I want to give them their roses. It's definitely a genre that doesn't get the love it deserves, even when it comes to award season. But there's nothing to write home to with Halloween Kills, and everybody involved should know better to present what they presented with. Even the writing was middling, to say the least. The direction, David Gordon Green, I feel like you presented something that was interesting and intriguing with the flashback, and I didn't get to it in my initial review, but what you did with bringing back Donald Pleasance was mind-blowing. Probably the best thing about the film, and when I give you kudos for giving it a 1.5, I was being nice. This was so disheartening, and it definitely had to end up. It's at the bottom, but it's definitely on my list of disappointing films. David Gordon Green and company, I'm coming for y'all if you don't approve on Halloween Ends. It's your last chance. Bring it. At number 9, this film should have been really good. This is Those Who Wish Me Dead. Taylor Sheridan just had promise, but what you had to offer with this film and a film that actually comes next on my list, it's just sad to see that even as a screenwriter, just very middling and unfocused, unclear. There are things that I definitely liked about this film, and definitely Tyler Perry was a standout, even though it was a glorified cameo. If you were setting something interesting up for him, I think it's a little too late. Didn't really make a splash when it was in theaters, and I didn't hear anything as far as reception goes on HBO Max with its day and date. But this film should have been better. I just think that it was very poorly directed. The rendering of special effects seemed cheap, but you know, it wasn't the cast's fault. I think this was a perfect vehicle for Angelina Jolie to build up to. I know, again, she didn't have such a great year. I mean, Eternals was just alright, but definitely could have used that bump up. And I know that definitely Angelina Jolie has got something on the rise. It just wasn't with this. At number 8 was Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. Again, getting back to the Taylor Sheridan things of it all. I know you're just a screenwriter on this as well, but it doesn't give you excuse to hire the guy that directed your sequel that was ill-conceived in Sicario, The Day of the Soldado, to direct this. Tom Clancy, Tired, should have been made 20 years ago. I believe this is a Prime Video release. Didn't see the release in theaters, and you definitely didn't need to. I'm glad you just could have caught it at home. Definitely, I think this was early on when we were knee deep in the pandemic. So if you didn't catch it, well, go ahead and watch it on Prime, but you've been warned. Wasn't that great. Number 7 spot, and it really should be higher, but I did go back and think about where we are in the world today, how hyper meta everything is, and I really think that Lana Wachowski did what she could, but you know what number 7 is? It's The Matrix Resurrections. I just think that you could have something on your hands, Lana. I do like what Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss are bringing on screen. It does take a while to get them on the screen together, but when they do, it's magic. I just feel like the new cast and crew just didn't really cut it. Give me Hugo Weaving, give me Lawrence Fishburne, get the band back together. If you want to make a next one, I think you know what you need to do. I know a lot of the Matrix heads like this film, so maybe I'm just an anomaly. But to me, The Matrix Resurrections it was bad at number 7, and that's where you hold it in my heart. Number 6 is another at the go round. This is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. James Wan, don't worry. This is not your only entry, and I think you know where I'm going to go with this. Don't worry, the other film is higher up where it should be. But this film, I just feel like it was tired, very contrived, with the exception of an excellent opening. Just something about these disappointing films this year have great openings. So much potential, but you falter and fumble for the remainder of the running time, where just the main cast is just sleepwalking. You know, Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson could do this in their sleep, and they shouldn't be sleepwalking anymore. We gotta challenge them. James Wan, you're just lucky that you weren't back in the director's chair. Don't worry. Again, I'm coming for you, James Wan. It's all fun and jest, but yeah, The Conjuring, they should stop making them. Number 5. Now, number 5, I'm kind of cheating here because it's 3 movies in one. And I think you know where I'm going with. It's been a Netflix darling and a critical darling, and I still can't wrap my brain around it. The Fear Street Trilogy, 1994, 1977. Correct me if I'm wrong, 1666. I hope I got all 3. I don't really care because I didn't really care for them. But it's so crazy how Rotten Tomatoes could chalk this up to be 83%, 88%. The egregious at all, 1666 to receive a 90%. These films were boring, were not scary, and despite having a young, on the rise cast, just didn't cut it, you know? And it should have been great. Should have been a revival for R.L. Stine. A Goosebumps head. I actually like the Goosebumps films that we had, even the sequel, better than this piece of hot garbage. I really don't get why everybody loves these films. And I gotta say, it's at number 5 for me. Should be higher. I did not like the Fear Street Trilogy at all. Number 4. You know where I'm going with this. I know HBO Max had high hopes for its IP overload, but Space Jam: A New Legacy, please. That's one thing that we just didn't need to bring back. And to choose the basketball player with, I guess, comedic chops, LeBron James. Now, I did like LeBron James's appearance in the film Trainwreck. He showed some promise, but to helm an entire film, just thinking about it, I'm reliving it. No, don't do that again. Even with its bells and whistles, and yes, even a energetic performance by Don Cheadle as the big baddie, you still didn't get anything from me, really. And I was being particularly nice. You're lucky I had my son on for this one. He was enthusiastic with his 5 stars. And trust, I was ready to give you a big, fat 0 stars. But hey, the kid was there, so I had to be nice. I gave you a 1 star, but yeah, in my mind, you're 0 stars. Number 3, James Wan. I'm glad I'm bringing you up again. You were in the director's chair this time. Number 3, another fan and critic darling, Malignant. I still don't get why the high praise and, just to me it was a wannabe absurdist 80s throwback slasher with big genre attempts of grandeur. If you got lost with it, if you bought into the absurdity and bombastic, just really, really contrived and overblown plot device at the 3rd act, I feel sorry for you, because maybe you were just bored on a Friday night, and maybe you just want to give James Wan his roses, which you should when he does a good job in the other 2 Conjuring films and the first Saw film. But James Wan, please don't bring back 80s nostalgia. Just the slasher films that were predominantly sequels in the 80s just remain to be a big blemish in the horror community. And maybe I'm an anomaly again in here. Again, I love horror films. I'm gonna bring it with you in my next review of Scream, and I hope you like what I got, my horror heads. But I'm gonna tell you the truth, and I'm be on the real, and I do like that horror franchise. But let's be honest, guys. When you think of Halloween, when you think of Friday the 13th, most of their sequels took place in the 80s. And let's hear it, guys. You like the sequels? I don't think you do. But now you're pretending to like something that was birthed in that era. And it just wasn't good. Malignant was just terrible. Not scary, and that's just a cardinal offense. But you want to bring slapstick, horror, absurdist, whatever that was, please don't. James Wan, 80s throwback, leave that shit in the 80s. Now, number 2, early on, and it is the very first Mann Cinema Reviews, and that was Lockdown, which most of us were. And you know what? I gotta give Lockdown its roses, because at least it birthed my channel. I said, you know what? I saw that with my wife. It was just a night where we had the wine going, popcorn flowing. I think it should have been the other way around. We were looking forward to something being on screen, and we were just bored to tears with Lockdown. Now, it's a interesting premise, being that it was amidst the pandemic, and it was shot like it was Zoom meetings after Zoom meetings. You had an impressive cast, you had cameos aplenty, you had a great director in Doug Liman. Its 2 leads, Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor, had somewhat chemistry in some scenes, but the film was just boring. Something happened, please. And when you got to the heist, please don't call it a heist film, because it happens at the tail end, and just it wasn't a heist. And if it was the dumbest heist I ever saw on film. Now, number one, again, I feel like even number 2 should have been, I should have switched it, because I feel like I was very hyperbolic when I saw it. But even my son didn't like it, and it was a film I did review, Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe origin story, whatever that thing was. Now, you had pretty cool special effects, you had a great cast. Henry Golding, I do adore, and it wasn't his fault. In fact, I thought he was very charismatic for an uncharismatic character who doesn't talk at all. But again, I guess you had to give an origin story to Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes, he has the one with the helmet on. Doesn't talk, pretty much mute. A lot of talking going on. You didn't really need to make a G.I. Joe origin story for Snake Eyes, and it shows. It is at number 1 for a reason. It just was uninteresting, and when the action did ramp up, it was a little too late because it happens all in third act. Everything exciting happens at the very end, including Snake Eyes getting his helmet right before the end credits. There you go, guys. That was like a band-aid, just gotta rip it off. Thank you very much for choosing Mann Cinema Reviews, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again.